Welcome to your Saturday night, and I am your Saturday night, and we are here for some fun. What kind of fun, you might ask? Well, art. I mean, let's be fair. It's Saturday, and Saturday means art. There's very few things as fun, as wonderful, as enjoyable. Of course, you could do many things on a Saturday night. That is a granted, a given, always a possibility. But what are we doing here? Well, we're going to get to some painting. We have the palette, we have the canvas. I've already done a pre-sketch on my canvas board for what I'm going to be painting. I have my brushes. All these wonderful brushes, and we're going to get to use them, and it's going to be a good time. We have the paints, these wonderful acrylics. These ones are from Shuttle Art, and I'm also going to be using some Cali Art. So we're going to use a combination of vintage acrylics, which just have a different tone, setting, drying time, and then some more modern style colors and acrylics. It's all going to be really good. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have a great time doing this. I have, for the most part, my colors picked out, but I have thoughts. I have so many thoughts. Before we get to that, just a quick little hey there. So we're here in my studio and streaming space. This is where I do most of my painting. This is where I do most of my lives. Of course, in the background, you'll see my bookshelf. I have a wonderful little globe light back there. It's bright, it's warm, it's fun. And in the center, we have my easel with my canvas board and this wonderful palette, which I'm going to be using. And I'm going to cover it in paint, and we're going to get a little bit messy. But I have thoughts. Before I get into that, though, quick note, either in the description for the video or in the chat, depending on where you are, where you're watching, there's going to be a link to my website. Why should you go there? That's where you can get my original prints, artwork, Well, correction. That's where you can get my prints, my original artwork, my merch. I have shirts, I have leggings, I have bags. I even have a sketchbook. Tons of things, tons of fun. But what are we painting tonight? Let's talk about it, shall we? First things first, I'm going to grab this. I need to get a hold of this. So I want to make a quick little call out first. So I just learned that I'm supposed to hold my palette this way. I just learned that. Rest it on my arm like this. So I've just learned that after painting for more than half my life. And I have to really give just an amazing thank you to my friend DJ of Silver Fox Talks for helping me learn this little thing here. Oh my goodness! She pointed it out from a Bob Ross video, and it's like, I've been using palettes all my life, and I didn't know that's how I'm supposed to hold this, and I felt silly. I was silly. So we've just learned this, and as soon as I did it, I'm like, oh, not only is this easier, like in general, but this just gives so many options of how I can paint. And then she went ahead and she showed me all these pictures of like artists, and they have their brushes, and they're holding their brushes like this, kind of. Maybe not exactly like this, but it's like, oh, I can hold all of my brushes while I'm painting, and I can hold my palette, and I can have a more stable workspace to be on. Oh, it was astounding. So, if you're not following Silver Fox Talks, find her on social media and follow her. She's on Twitch and YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook and all over the place. So, we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm painting today first. Let me get some paint out, because I'm going to need my yellow ochre to start with. And these acrylics are pretty thin, which I like. But I need some yellow ochre. I'm going to get a little bit of orange. And some of my Mars orange, which is much darker. Because I have some things that I want to do. This is not going to be a painting that's finished today, but it is going to be a painting that we're doing and that we enjoy. But I just got to get a few of my colors on this palette really quick. You know. So wherever you are right now, feel free to say something in the chat, get involved. Let me know what you're doing on your amazing Saturday. And let's enjoy some time together. Let's enjoy some time together. Alright, so I'll try not to cover up what I'm doing, but I do want to make sure that I'm here and that I'm getting a good view of everything and that we're dealing with this. So sometimes I get stuck in these kinds of ways of thinking. Have you ever been stuck in a pattern, a frame of mind that you can't do anything about? You really want to and you can't. Have you ever found yourself just, I don't know, curious about certain ways of doing things, of thinking, of being? Sometimes I get stuck in a very particular kind of train of thought. And because I get stuck in a particular train of thought, what can end up happening is kind of forget what I'm doing. And when I get stuck in what I'm doing, I can get lost in what I'm doing. Have you ever been lost, like completely lost in what you're doing? Completely unable to remove yourself from a frame of mind? Happens to me. Happens to me actually a lot. Where I lose track. And the thing about losing track is it's not always evident that you've done it. Oh, also, I'm going to let you know now, you might see some light flickering. We have a bit of rain and bad weather. So you might see some light flickering. And there's not a lot I can do about it. Oops. And I just made a mess. That's okay. There are no mistakes in art, and we can fix it. We can fix it. The problem with getting stuck in a certain frame of mind, or even a certain way of thinking, is it can really color your perspective. And I don't mean that in the same way like I'm coloring this painting. I mean, you can end up with a very skewed way of thinking. So a lot of the time I do what's usually referred to as alla prima painting. So alla prima painting, hey Silver Fox, glad to see you here. So alla prima painting is essentially you start a piece and then you keep going until it's done. And I do that a lot. And it's just it's not always conducive to what you want to achieve. With the way I've become used to doing my work, and with the way I've become used to creating, that's what it is. I am there all the time. Now I am going to backtrack just because So I have to show it off on the screen. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I got my palette and my brushes, and this is nice. This is nice. It works so well. It's like it works so well. And it's great. Exactly. Yay! Woohoo! and so I can just go ahead and I can put that brush there, and I can get my next brush, and it's like, okay, this is the one I'm using really quick. Oh. Got a little white plastic. Ooh, yes, a bigger palette. Yes, a bigger palette. Need a bigger palette. So, I have a bunch of stuff, like, just rummaging around in my mind right now. But I agree, get yourself a bigger palette. Um, you will be so happy when you do. So, yeah, I've just been thinking about the fact that I pretty much always do this kind of alla prima painting. And because I always do this alla prima painting, beginning to end, um, or should I say, like, most frequently I'm doing like a painting and I just keep going until it is done. One of the things that actually happens because of that is I can get stuck in that mindset, like I have to do things a certain way. It needs to be done immediately, right? But because of that, I've kind of become my own worst enemy in art. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic. It's just I'm limiting myself. I'm limiting myself to, okay, this is how I'm supposed to do my artwork. And these are the subjects that I paint, and this is how I go about it. And that is not making me a better artist. What is making me a better artist are things like talking about art, learning, applying my skills, showing other people how to do what I do. These things are making me a better artist. But getting stuck and just doing everything the same way over and over, I know they say practice makes perfect, but that is not making me a better artist. It's limiting my viewpoint. And we cannot limit our viewpoints. We can't limit our views. We can't put ourselves in a position where we're not growing. And I want to grow. I want to grow and develop and be better at what I do. You may hear some rain and you may see some flickering light as we move along. And that's how it is. So just keep in mind that may happen. Now, I'm going to continue on with some of these things I have to say, because when I'm in this kind of creative mode, I get thoughts, lots of thoughts, and we cannot ignore them. Well, we can ignore them, but it's not helpful to ignore them. It's not helpful to ignore our observations. So let me just talk a little bit about some things I want to do differently. So we're already sharing time once a month doing Oh, few questions. Yeah, go ahead. Go right ahead. If you have questions, you can always ask. Is wood better than plastic? That is actually a really good question. So for pallet, looking on it, okay, on Amazon. So wood actually has a lot of benefits, but I will be very clear: it is not the easiest to clean unless you're doing like oil paints. Like it. Oh, I laughed too hard and I was too close to the mic. I'm sorry. It would be. Yes, yes. So that is great. So wood can be a really good choice for a palette, but it can be more difficult to clean. If you have heavy pigments, they can stain it. But if you have, if you're painting in oils, it can be a really good choice. In some ways, I use wood more because it's classic. It has, and so that's like one of the biggest reasons I use wood. It's very classic. It appeals to that sense I have of wanting to connect with that older style of art, but it is not always the best material. Would I say that you should probably learn how to use a wood palette? Yes. It can be really good for mixing. It can be really good for oil paint. And it has a lot of versatility, but it can be difficult to clean. So if you're going to use wood, bear that in mind. It's not going to be the easiest thing to clean. Now, if you get a plastic palette, it has its own limitations. But plastic palettes are far easier to clean. They're really versatile, but they have limitations, again, like everything. If you want probably the most agile palette, you should use an acrylic one because they're easy to clean, easy to maintain, easy to use. They sometimes can be a little more expensive, but that would be my suggestion. But yes, I also suggest wood too, so I guess it's up to you. But yeah, if you have questions, please always feel free to put them in chat. Always feel free to put those out there. Sometimes my answers are going to be a little bit longer than just, oh yeah, that's a great idea. But I'm always going to be very fair with you, you know? Be very fair. So let me talk a little bit about what I'm painting today for a moment, because I just kind of been going on and on. So when it comes to what I was talking about earlier, where sometimes I don't realize that I'm kind of stuck in a certain mode, or that I have realized I've been stuck in a certain mode. It's like, am I fulfilling the style, the purpose, the intention I have with my art? And then I also think about the fact that, artists' statements and missions are something that you see a lot nowadays. And it's like, well, what is my artist statement? What is my artist mission? And, when I started creating art, in a lot of ways, my mission was just make everything that I want. And that's horribly unrealistic. Terribly unrealistic. I'm not saying it's unrealistic to make what you want. I'm saying it's unrealistic to think that you can just go about everything in that way. And I have become kind of my own little internal monster. My own problem. Because I'm not really consistently sticking to one thing. So today, in recognition of my own little monster that I am, I'm painting just that. My own little monster. I might start in the near future breaking away from alla prima painting. Also, I hope I answered your question. I know I'm just kind of going and going and going. I hope I answered your question, and I hope that that was helpful. Ah, I'm already enjoying myself greatly. I'm gonna talk just for a second. Better for mixing. Oh, yeah, okay, so I think I did see that question. Would the colors run better for mixing? Okay, so, sorry, I missed those. Colors can run if they're really thin paints. So if you have really thin paints, the colors may run. That is more about the medium than the palette. And then, better for mixing. Yes, so on something like wood, I have a great surface where it does retain moisture. Because it retains moisture, I can get a good mix on top of here for my tones and my colors. And one of the things that's useful about that is just being able to keep wet paint That is my experience. But your mileage may vary. So if you have an acrylic palette, you can also mix really well on that. Though the moisture is going to stay really on level on top. Because the moisture is going to stay more on the top, you won't have to worry about a lot of things that may occur. So you're not going to get as much of like bubbling. You're not going to get bubbling. Which can be an issue. Every different kind of palette has its own quirks. Plastic can be great. And I'm just going to say that right out. Plastic can be great. And if you're not doing anything like highly technical, go with plastic. And actually, no, I don't want to make it sound snobby like that. If you are not highly technical, you can also go with plastic. But you know, everything has its own strength. So I don't want to sound like I'm bashing plastic. I am not. Plastic is perfectly fine. That also depends on a lot of your own personal preferences. So yeah, we're just we're painting that inner monster today. Inner monster. All right. I'm actually really enjoying this. This is a much, well, obviously, if you've watched these before, you can see it's a bit different. And I'm not committing myself to alla prima today. If you do not know what alla prima is, or if you're just joining us, so alla prima painting is wet on wet. It also can translate to meaning until done or until finished. And alla prima painting is when you sit, well, not necessarily sit, but when you start a piece of artwork and then you continue painting until the art is complete. So that's alla prima painting. The reason I'm not committing to alla prima today, or at least one of the biggest reasons, is because as I've been talking about, that's actually something that I think is a limitation for me. I know it makes me skilled in what a lot of the things I do, but it's also a limiting factor because it always puts me into this mindset that I have to finish what I'm doing like now. I have to finish it now. And why should we do that kind of stuff to ourselves, right? Why should we say, oh, if you don't finish it now, well, that's just bad work, isn't it? So I'm just trying to distance myself from a potentially limiting and also potentially toxic mindset of if you're not finishing it now, you're not really being a good artist. And that kind of, in a lot of ways, it starts to remove the fun from the art. Now, in like my workshops, yeah, we're gonna go alla prima all day, you know. That's kind of a different scenario. Lots of wet on wet painting, lots of paint until you're done. Um, but let's talk about this in a different kind of mindset, really quick. So oftentimes, life can have this pressure, similar to what I've just been talking about, of completion. Get it done, get it done, get it done, get it done. Why aren't you done? And this, though potentially very helpful in so many ways in our lives, and obviously, like, that completionist mindset can be very helpful. There is that rain coming strong and powerful. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's there. So this completionist mindset, it's present in a lot of areas of life. And it can also sometimes, really push us to do our absolute best in tons of ways. But you know what else it can do? It can make you stressed, make you anxious. It can make you feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses, keep up with the community, keep up with your peers. You can feel driven forward to succeed in all the places that we're supposed to. Because we're supposed to. Not because we want to. Not because it makes us happy. Because we're supposed to, right? Ironically, I think taking some of the pressure off myself is making this like a lot easier to do right now. And I know that we're still early on. But it's just painting with a little more purity. So yeah, feel free to shoot out any questions you might have as we go. I really liked the question about the palette. That was actually an amazing question. And again, I really hope that I answered it well for you and that my answer was helpful. So let me talk a little bit about my technique here too. So one of the things that I'm doing today is putting in my block shadows first. I kind of want those pre-darkened and pre-brightened areas already to exist right now. So that's something that I'm doing here. I'm also going ahead and I'm painting over top of things that I've already painted because this is going to help me build layered shadows. We want all the layered shadows we can get. It's going to add richness, it's going to add life, it's going to make where we end up all the more rewarding. I'm also going ahead and I'm actually taking care of certain detail areas early. So like the eyes already have a lot of detail. The hands, well, the hand already has a lot of kind of starting detail that we're going to really make better. So sometimes they say, you know, do the broad strokes as it were first, right? But think about how often we're told do the hardest task first. Have you ever heard that in life? Do the hardest task first? That's part of what we're doing right now. The hardest task is being done first. And a lot more is going to be going into this as I move forward, but, you know, no pressure. None. We are not doing pressure today. Already feel pressured by so many things. Already feel, I don't know, expected to do so many things. That's an entirely different subject, though, and we're not going to get into it too much. Because right now, we are painting. This is already pretty fun, though, isn't it? A nice, different kind of piece. I'm actually going to end up dirtying up the hands here a bit. I want them to be well worn. Well worn. Really quickly just darken in a little bit on these lips. We have a lot more places to go. A lot more things to do. And so much fun to have. So much fun to have. We're going to get a little messy here. And that's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. I still have a lot of choices to make. And a lot more to do. And while I figure out exactly what I'm doing, I might as well have fun with it. Gotta have fun with it. Alright, we're going to take 2 seconds so that I can go ahead. I want to let all that set for a minute. Had to eat. Oh, good. So glad you did. Gotta get something to eat, right? Whew, I have to sit down for just a second, and then I need to look at my colors. What I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to put a bunch of phthalo blue in the background. Go ahead, shoot out your questions. This is always open. Questions, go. makes the experience. How would you suggest picking out colors? Okay, that's a really... So that is a multi-layered question, but we're going to start with the basics. If you're trying to pick colors for like a basic set to have around to just paint with, has 1,000 colors. Okay, so we're gonna make this real simple, real easy. Go ahead, get yourself basic colors. And when I say basic colors, I mean either get red, green, blue, black, white, or you go CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And actually, realistically, if you get your RGB and your CMYK colors, you're set for most instances. As you develop and as you gain more skills, you're going to want more colors and more options. But I think that's a really solid way to go. And this is just going to be my one tip. Every artist out there should have phthalo blue. Everyone should have a phthalo blue. I'm going to drop that down a little bit. So there we go. Phthalo blue. Everyone should have a phthalo blue. But you're going to want to make sure you have a blue, a red, a yellow. You're going to want to have white. Black. And I know that's really general. Really need new colors. Okay, in that case, let me make a quick suggestion in the range of new colors, because when you get new colors, you don't necessarily know what you enjoy. So what... yeah, and boredom. It's going to happen. Boredom is normal. So let me just address that. I'm going to go ahead. I need to start adding in some of my background elements here. But, okay, so new colors. Let me go ahead and just say, first off, when getting new colors, where you want to try something new, look in ranges that you don't normally see. Try to find things that... Don't just go for things that sound fun, go for things that are different. Like, if you don't recognize the name of a color, oh yeah, get that. Find out what it looks like. And if you want to go with, like, really good spring colors, go ahead, get yourself a few standbys as far as, like, a good green, a good yellow, and a good pink. But also look for stuff like lavender, magenta, lilac. Just think outside the box. Look for some chartreuse. It's a really nice kind of yellow-green. I love chartreuse. Wonderful color. Kind of confuses my eyes. So that's a good solid suggestion right there. You don't necessarily need metallics, but if you want metallics, they aren't always a bad idea. I'm using a little metallic gold right here really quick. But one of the reasons is I kind of am going